Welcome in to the Friday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. Joe DiBiase from Locked On Sabres, joined as always by Rachel Donner from Locked On Flyers. Rachel, we're doing video for the first time. Is this any more uncomfortable for you? Because I'm already feeling a little different.
Yeah, it's exciting, different, terrifying, all of the above.
Yes, but we're not live, so I guess I'm not feeling too much pressure. I do radio also, so I don't know. I feel like I might be set up for the pressure of you're on, go, time to go. There's no editing afterwards, although there is editing on this, but I'm not really a video editor, so I'm not sure I'd be able to figure it out to do it if we had mistakes along the way. So yeah, you found us on YouTube. If you're listening to this on Spotify, the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you might be listening to the podcast on your day-to-day routine, you can now catch us in video form on YouTube. So be sure to check out our YouTube channel, Locked On NHL. If you're looking for a link for that, head up our Twitter at Locked On NHL Pods. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Sneaky Joe Sports. Rachel is at R Miriam. And we've got a bunch to go through today on the podcast. Couple of Sabres items that aren't too serious, but we'll run through in our news segment. Big news with the Arizona Coyotes in a yearly tradition of what's going on with their future, seemingly. And we have a legend retiring. But let's start with the Women's World Championships. I was watching USA Russia the other day on NHL Network. It's not a tournament that I typically am following super closely, but have started to get into a little bit this year. I know you've been paying more attention to it than I have.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this year's tournament. You may recall that last time around, Team USA in the gold medal match got a scare against Team Finland, and a little bit of a controversial ending there, but USA managed to pull that one out. Of course, Team USA won the last gold medal, and all of this is leading up to the Olympics in Beijing next year. So this is the only kind of big tournament leading up to that, because this tournament actually was supposed to take place last year and got postponed, canceled, whatnot, due to COVID, and is finally taking place in Calgary right now. You mentioned Team USA versus Russia. Each team was only getting one preliminary game as a warm-up. So Team USA did beat Russia 6-0. Team Canada, obviously the other big powerhouse, won over Finland 4-1 in their preliminary game. Team USA, really interesting situation in goal, because I was pretty shocked that Erin Frankel was not originally selected for the team. She won the Patty Kazmaier Award, which is the top college women's player award. She played for Northeastern, and Maddie Rooney, who was selected for the team, got injured at camp, and so Erin Frankel replaced her, and this is the only reason she got a spot on the team. I think, obviously the two big powerhouses are Team USA, Team Canada. One of those two teams will likely win the tournament, but there's some other interesting storylines as well. I think Team Finland, which I previously mentioned, they are no longer with their top goaltender, Nora Ratu, who basically kept them in the tournament and in the games the last couple of times around. But they do have some really strong forwards on that team. So kind of looking at the next tier of teams between Russia and Finland, and I would say Switzerland, I'm very curious to see how those three teams play out.
We're getting towards a point, it seems like, over the years where it's not just USA versus Canada every time. Like, I know that, of course, like they're still top dogs 1 and 2, especially come the Worlds and the Olympics. But yeah, doesn't it feel like those other nations are starting to build those programs up to where maybe not right now, but in a few years, they could be competing for gold medals?
Absolutely. And the game will be better off for it. I mean, of course, I'm selfish and I like Team USA winning every time.
I think I saw they've won every World Championship gold, like maybe all but one, dating back to like 2006, something like that. I got to look it up, but
it was this weird thing where Team USA would win Worlds every time, but then when it came to the Olympics, Canada would win until the last time around. And so I think, maybe Canada wants to break that streak going into this, but will that be bad luck for them going into the Olympics for next year? And, there's all sorts of superstition and whatnot around it.
Right. U.S. plays Switzerland today. So if that game has not happened by the time you're listening to this, be sure to check it out. All those games are going to be on NHL Network. So if you're looking for some live hockey, I've had NHL Network on at work, just kind of in the background usually. So I'm always looking for live sports to have on. And it was a breath of fresh air to have some live hockey on over like Sharks franchise classics, which was on like for the 3 days before that. I didn't even think there were that many San Jose Sharks classics to fill up 3 days, but they found 3 days worth of games on NHL Network. So good to have some live hockey on for sure.
Yep. And then the big first matchup between Team USA and Team Canada is next Thursday. So we'll be able to talk about that game on next Friday's show.
Yes. So that's going on at the Women's World Championships. We have a couple of news items. Well, really one news item and then something that's really more silly with the Buffalo Sabres. Owen Power going back to Michigan. First overall pick to go back to school and not go straight to the NHL since Eric Johnson in 2007. Now, I've seen like there were a couple analysts from TSN that said like, oh, this is humiliating for the Sabres. And I think in a way it is because they've reached this point where going back to the University of Michigan looks like a more attractive option than going to the NHL to play for the Sabres. But we all know what they are, even Sabre fans. Like, we know what's happening here. We know that they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. And Rachel, I mean, I don't follow college hockey super close. Even with that being said, I'd feel pretty comfortable saying that's the most talented college hockey team ever. They have eight first round picks are going to be on that roster next year, including 4 of the top 5 from this past draft class. You don't even see that in other sports, like the NBA with Kentucky or the NHL or the NFL with Alabama. I mean, they'll have a bunch of first round picks. You're never going to see 4 of the top 5 all on the same team. And that's what we have with Power going back now, Matthew Beniers, Luke Hughes, who's going to be playing his freshman season, and then Kent Johnson. So I don't knock Power for making this decision. I think it's smart. I mean, why play 18 minutes a night on the worst team in hockey when you could go play 25 minutes a night for the national championship favorite?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, it's different when you're talking about a guy going back to junior hockey where it's kids. College hockey is a much more mature game, obviously older guys with more adult bodies. And so I think that given the talent that will be surrounding him, as well as the competition, I think it'll be good for him developmentally, regardless.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to order the Big Ten Network now to make sure I'm watching those Michigan games. Speaking of the Sabres, Jack Eichel, Emoji Gate on Twitter yesterday.
Causing trouble.
He just tweets one little face emoji. He's kind of back on Twitter. He started his Twitter account again after going off for like a year. He started up again like 2 weeks ago, and it got reported originally that it wasn't him. Like the Athletics' John Vogel said, this is a fake account because that's what his agents are telling me. But then Eichel tweeted back and said, nope, this is me, like confirmed by Jack Eichel. And then the agent said, okay, actually it is him. We just didn't know. So
that was so funny.
Right. Great job by him with that response. It was super funny, by the way. But there's really nothing there so far. He's following one person, and it's the NHL account. So cue up oh damn, I'm gonna forget the actor's name. The actor that wore the NFL hat at NFL games. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. I'll think of it by the end of the episode. Terrible job by me. But he cue up those memes. If you're really good on social media, you'll know what I'm talking about. Eichel's second tweet came yesterday, and if you hovered your mouse over the emoji, you would see that it was the unamused face, which, of course, now, I mean, read into that what you want. That could have meant anything. But I think Eichel's smart enough to know that who he's tweeting to. Everyone's going to think that has something to do with the Sabres behind the scenes, I think. Right?
Oh, of course. And I'm sure he's just sitting there laughing like, oh, I'm going to mess with everybody and just tweet a random emoji and see what happens.
Yeah. Rob Lowe, by the way, is the actor. I can't believe I didn't think of that. But yeah, like Jack is someone that he'll give you his opinion. So it's a little cryptic. I'm not stunned by it. That he would be the guy to do something like this. It's not much anyway. It's an emoji. I can't believe we're really talking about it. But that's where we're at with the Eichel trade saga. This is all we've gotten for 2 weeks, other than a billboard next to the Sabres arena by Ranger fans. What did you think of that, by the way? Because that's happened just the last time we talked. Ranger fans putting up a billboard saying "Free Jack" next to KeyBank Center downtown.
I don't know. I mean, we have bonded over our befuddlement with the New York Rangers
Yep.
on the show so far. So I am not surprised, shocked by anything that Ranger fans do. And it's just, I don't know what's going on there. But
So
buying
obnoxious.
billboards related to your sports teams is a waste of money, in my opinion.
I agree. I'm not going to lie, though. I did look up how much it would cost to put up a billboard next to Madison Square Garden. But given location, especially,
I was going to say, a little pricey.
Little pricey. A little outside my my price range for sure. All right, and then other news items, if that even counted as news. Henrik Lundqvist, this is certainly news. He retires from the National Hockey League at age 39 after not playing with the Washington Capitals last season due to his heart condition. He was back skating on the ice towards the end of the season, and I saw reports earlier in the offseason that he had expressed some interest in returning to the league, but maybe he just looked around, wasn't going to find anything other than a backup job, decided it wasn't worth it. I don't really know what the circumstances were towards that, but I mean, Hall of Fame career, no doubt, by this guy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at his career numbers, 2.43 goals against average, 918 save percentage, 64 shutouts, 887 games played. I mean, that is an unbelievable level of excellence to maintain over the course of how long his career has been.
Right. I mean, he doesn't get the cup, but if you don't have the cup, you at least have to have all-time great numbers, all-time great production. He's got that. So it sucks for him that he doesn't have it. This has kind of been an era, by the way, of a lot of the top goalies that are going to have Hall of Fame discussion. Some of them might be easier decisions than others, are not going to have that ring. Lundqvist is that. I think Roberto Luongo is certainly that. Carey Price is probably going to turn into that unless he finds his way back to a Stanley Cup. So I don't know. Does it say anything about this era of goaltending? I think maybe it's just probably dumb luck that the top goalies of the last 10, 15 years didn't win cups.
Well, I have a couple things to say about that. First off, I think you saw that in his official retirement announcement, social media post, he used his Sweden gold medal picture, which he did get. And I think that is the most important thing to him personally and his proudest achievement. And he's talked about that on many occasions. He got to do it with his twin brother as well. So I think that he got that special moment that means a lot to him, even if it wasn't a Stanley Cup. So I think that there's that, first off. Secondly, for him personally, this is sort of a controversial opinion for me, in that when he signed that 7-year extension, I believe he signed it mid-season the year before, but it was starting for the 14-15 season, 8.5 cap hit with the Rangers. I thought that was a huge mistake on his part because there was no visible evidence that the Rangers were going to be cup worthy over the next few years. And I thought he really only had 4, maybe 5 years tops left in his career to begin with. And I thought he should have jumped ship and gone somewhere where he had, if he really, really wanted a Stanley Cup, he should have left the Rangers then. But he just had loyalty to this team and he wanted to stay. And that's a choice he made and he had to live with that.
Yeah, I don't think that's, I mean, it might be controversial. I think it's right. I mean, if you wanted the cup that bad, there were plenty of other situations you could have gone to improve your chances. So I guess I can respect the loyalty, but I mean, if you wanted the cup that bad, then there were alternative motives or routes that you could have taken. So good luck to him in retirement. We're losing the best dressed player in the NHL.
Oh, by far.
For the last 20 years, not even close, right?
Talented musician as well. Like, what can this man not do?
Yeah. PK Subban does pretty well for himself. So he might be the new king when it comes to like the red carpet at the NHL awards and whatnot. But yeah, Lundqvist was definitely multi-talented, to say the least.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the big news item from the last couple of days. I'm wearing my Arizona hat, by the way. So my mom lives in Phoenix, Arizona. So I've been there a few times in the last couple of years. I could tell you firsthand that that city does not really, hockey just doesn't register. It just does not register. Like, it's fun for the fans that are there, but it's just that. Like, there's not a lot of diehards, I would say. And now we have more questions yet again about the future of the Coyotes, the Arizona Coyotes, and relocation, where they're going to be playing if they're staying put. Because yesterday, Thursday, the city of Glendale, Arizona opted not to extend their lease agreement, which means now that the Coyotes have no home past this upcoming season, the 2021-2022 season. League sources have come out and basically kind of brushed it off, saying like this is just a negotiating tactic. But I mean, if it's not just a negotiating tactic, that's a serious problem where you don't know where you're going to be playing on the short term. And this is not new for this team. I've watched Glendale City Council meetings dating back 3, 4, or 5 years ago with different issues about this team playing in that city. So I don't know. Now everyone's speculating about, well, should they relocate? Should Bettman just finally say, all right, I've tried. I've been trying to make this work for over a decade. We've gone years without owners. We've gone through multiple different owners, some that have dropped out. Maybe it's time to admit this just isn't working. Let's go somewhere else. How do you see the whole landscape of the Coyote situation in Glendale now?
Yeah, I might disagree with you a little bit on the fan base situation. I mean, I've been there. I've been to
Mhm.
games there many times with a packed building with rabid fans and had a really good time. So I think when the product on the ice isn't a mess, the fans are there.
Sure.
And
And that
so
hasn't been the case, by the way.
no, that is
So, yeah.
absolutely true. That is absolutely true. And the management has been a mess for a decade, like you
Mhm.
said. I do think that it's an important geographic location to have an NHL presence in the Mountain West, with, Denver really being the only other team in that region.
Mhm.
It's helpful to have another team there, especially to cut down travel for the California teams, etc. And also for, some of the Midwestern teams, it's a good location. It's a big city that does have a strong sports
Mhm.
energy to it. So I think it's worth keeping working at it in order to try and make something happen here. I do think there's a little bit of gamesmanship going on here with Glendale. It could all work out in the end. They do have active negotiations going on in Tempe right
Mhm.
now for a stadium deal, and I think it would be worth it to try. I don't like the immediate jump to relocation. And,
Right.
we get like the Quebec City jokes come up again. The
Yep.
other city people have been talking about is Houston because the NHL had a visit there
Yep.
recently.
2 years
And
ago, I think. Yeah.
yeah, so, as far as maybe a potential expansion team there. So people bring up those two cities. But I just really hope it works out in Arizona.
Yeah.
I want them to stay.
I do too, for selfish reasons, because I do want to go to games when I'm down there. Um, but by the way, I do definitely agree with you. Like, when you're in the arena and you're around the game atmosphere, like, those fans absolutely care. I guess I was meaning more like when you're just kind of walking around day to day, you might not notice as much compared to other teams, but that's probably going to be the case in many other cities too.
Yeah.
Now, the one city I thought of, and I don't want to necessarily jump to relocation that quickly either, but it is fun to think about. And the one city I thought of was the city that tried to acquire the Coyotes like 12 to 15 years ago, Hamilton, Ontario. Like, they had a deal in place that was going to move the team to Hamilton, but the league kind of blocked it. And when the league blocked it, I always thought that had a lot to do with the Toronto Maple Leafs, that they did not want another team in their market share taking up some of the revenue that they would be acquiring. So just a city I thought I'd throw out there because that had been linked to the Coyotes in the past, but I think we are probably very far away from any type of relocation stuff with them. The one thing I'll say about Bettman that I appreciate, and there are not many things for me on that list because I'm not a Gary Bettman fan, but one thing I can appreciate is he will stick by a team and he will do everything he can to avoid relocation. He did that here. The Sabres their owners went through bankruptcy 2003? And Bettman assumed ownership of the team. The NHL ran the team kind of like they did with the Coyotes. And when there was a bidder that wanted to buy the Sabres and move them to Portland, Oregon, Bettman didn't let that happen. He's like, this team is staying in Buffalo. We're not just going to move them willy-nilly like this. And that he's done that. He tried for years to make that work in Atlanta when they were at a revenue loss year after year. He did everything he could to keep that team there. He's doing it with the Coyotes. I mean, he has shown commitment to keeping that team in that market. And I can appreciate that loyalty from Bettman and to different markets, making sure that they're not just going to lose their team because of arena situations or untenable owner situations. And he's going to try to make it work at all costs. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think Bettman's going to stick by the Coyotes. And I think the most likely outcome is they're going to stay in Arizona and maybe even in Glendale. I think this could be a bluff. I know like it might not be, but that arena right now, they have two tenants. They have the Arizona State ice hockey team, which is Division I college hockey, but Arizona State last year agreed or started plans to build a 6,000 seat facility on campus. So Arizona State's going to be moving out of Gila River Arena very soon, which means the Coyotes will be their only tenant throughout the year. Like, yes, they have concerts and they have rodeos and other events and such there, but the Coyotes will be their only guaranteed tenant year to year. And I just think it would be weird for Glendale to just kind of kick them out like this, you know? So I think maybe they end up back in that arena.
Yeah, I think so too. And this is also my personal bias take, but if they have to temporarily relocate if it's an arena retrofit or, they do end up moving to Tempe, I would love to see them play in Salt Lake City for a couple of years until the arena is built. I used to live in Salt Lake City, so I know that
one's definitely a little biased then.
Totally biased. But that being said, they have a huge downtown arena where the Utah Jazz play, which has had ice down on it for the Olympics, which I saw in that building. So I've seen it with ice before and it does work. It's a good size arena with a thriving sports market that could handle it for a couple of years if they needed to. And I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So that's really all that's going on for now with the Coyotes and across the NHL. If you want more on the Coyote situation, be sure to check out Locked On Coyotes. I know that's what they're doing. If any news is coming your way at this point, I'm sure our podcasts are going to be locked in it because this is dry season in the NHL. And we have our top 50 list of NHL players coming out next week here on the Locked On NHL podcast network. Across all the shows, all the hosts voted, and we've compiled who we think as a network are the top 50 players. We got to look at the list and we'll unveil it next week, but we got to look at the list already. And we were kind of going back and forth before we started recording here that I think both of us had players that we thought should have been way higher, that the average vote they got was way different than what we thought.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised by some of them that were much higher than I would have voted them or vice versa. And I am excited to get going on that. I believe we will be talking about the players that were ranked 41 to 50 next week on the list.
We'll have the bottom of the list. So yeah, that'll be coming next Friday. And that's pretty much going to do it. Unless, let me check Twitter one more time here, make sure that no trades have happened while we've been recording or anything. And it looks like we're good. So that's going to do it. Follow us on Twitter at Sneaky Joe Sports, at R Miriam. And if you're listening again on Spotify, Odyssey, or Apple Podcasts, be sure to check out our YouTube channel, Locked On NHL, where you can find this podcast now going forward in video form on our YouTube channel. So that's going to do it for us. For Joe DiBiase, Rachel Donner, this has been the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.